So it's just past the middle of August and I'm a little bit late in getting my seeds started for this year, but you know, it's been a bit wet and miserable. Other things have been going on. I had a bit of the COVID, so I'm just getting to it now, and better late than never. Anyway, I am inside because it is a bit dark outside. It's about 5:30ish. I've just got home from work. And I don't have any benches or tables or anything set up in my shed outside. So here I am, and I'm going to try and not make too much of a mess, because seed starting, playing with dirt is always a little bit messy. But I have my stick vac on the floor there, ready to go. And I'm fully prepared to use it. So the reason why we get things started in August, I mean, we're not going to be planting these things out into the garden until sort of end of September, beginning of October, but we get them started in August so that they've got a really good start to life. By the time we get to September, October, end of September, when we want to start planting them out in the ground, we're going to have a good, healthy plant. We're going to have good, well-developed root system. They're not going to shock too much, and they get a really good head start on the growing season. So we, in August, we start things like tomatoes, chilies, capsicums, onions, a couple of the vine crops you can start, and all of this starting is inside in seed trays. And once you've got them ready to go in their seed trays, you can either put them like in front of a nice warm bright windowsill, you can put them under grow lights if you've got them, or in a nice warm greenhouse, and we just get them started. It is one of my favorite things to do in the garden this time of year. Even though I'm not in the garden, I'm still working for the garden. So let me show you what I've got, because I've got a couple of exciting new things to try this year. On my dining table, beautiful table, right? I love this table. I have not got chairs yet. I've had this table for about 3 years. But I'll get there eventually, it's fine. I have a self-watering propagation kit. I picked this up at Diggers online, and I have this because I'm actually going to be away for a whole heap of time in September. Poor planning on my behalf in regards to the garden, but hopefully this is going to keep everything alive. Good quality seed starting mix. You can make your own, but it's just easier for me to do this. I've got a bucket to mix my seed mix in because I've got some in here that I used from last time I started seeds. I'll need to just wet it a little bit, make it damp. And same with this one, it's been in my shed for a little while. And then I have all of my seeds. So this is what I'm starting today. I have a big Jim chili, Cayenne chili habanero. I've got a Pimento capsicum, Hungarian Sweet capsicum, Californian Wonder. Now the Pimento is like a really little one like this. It's kind of like what you see stuffed capsicums with. I'm super excited about that. Like those little ones with cream cheese. Ooh, yummy. Hungarian Sweet is a great one to stuff with like a rice or mince or something like that. And Californian Wonder is like your typical red. 3 different types of eggplants, long purple, black beauty, and from Happy Valley Seeds, I have a Florida Market. I'm going to start a couple of watermelons. I have an Allsweet, a Sugar Baby, and a Crimson Sweet. Celeriac. I do not know if this is the right time of year, but I'm going to give it a go, and I'm going to plant a couple of Kohlrabi, which is new to me. So super excited about that. Let me get this all open, and I'll sort of just show you the process. Firstly, I need to get my seed. There's dirt everywhere. Exactly what I was trying to avoid. Dirt everywhere. Everywhere. Anyway, this is just some seed starting mix, exactly the same as this that I started my tomatoes with last week. So this is a little bit damp. You can see it's kind of holding together a little bit, but not really enough for what I want. So I'm just going to take my watering jug thing and just kind of mix that water in, and that will probably be enough. What we want with our seed raising mix is for it to hold together when we squish it, but not really release water. That's maybe a little bit damp. So I'll just add a little bit of new mix in here. And we're pretty much just gonna mix that around until we get that right consistency. So pretty hard to see that there, but I've got the consistency just right. When I pick up a handful of it and squish it really hard, no water comes out, but it's holding together in a nice lump, and that's exactly what we want. So in the past, I've used just the normal seed starting trays. They come with just your plastic cells and then a drip tray. Put your potting mix in, put your seeds in, keep them watered. And they've always done really, really well for me. But I am traveling for business for most of September, and I feel like it's asking just a little bit much to ask friends or family to come around every single day to perfectly spray my seeds to keep them perfectly moist and everything like that. Even though I plan on sharing a whole lot of stuff, it's asking a little bit much. So this self-watering seed starting kit is hopefully going to be amazing. Now, I did start all of my tomatoes in this about a week ago, and there's one or two things that I have been noticing this week that I'm not 100% convinced on, and that's the other reason why I want to start my seeds now. So I've got a couple of weeks before I leave to make sure that they're good. So the self-watering kit comes with my water tray, which just goes on the bottom. The water tray also has a propagation dome that we may or may not use. We've got a multi-tool platform. It's got pegs and it's got a platform. And the idea of this, I'll show you in a minute, but it can be used for a couple of different things. We've got our cells. There's 40 cells in this, which is exciting. And the most important part is the capillary mat. And the capillary mat is what is going to keep our plants watered and is, you know, pretty much the whole thing with this self-watering seed tray. So let's get started. I'll show you kind of how it works, how it's slightly different from a normal seed starting kit, and we'll get our seeds planted. To try and keep the mess to a minimum, I mean, I've already made a huge mess over there, but to try and keep it more to a minimum, I just have a tray that hopefully will catch all the dirt. Anyway, seed cells here, and I'm literally just going to pretty much pour this bucket of soil over it. I'm not good at keeping things clean. There's already dirt everywhere. I think maybe I just rushed too much, but I like getting things done. I like just getting on with it. So that's all really loose, right? You saw how quickly that was. Just gonna give it a tap like that. And what that has done is it's settled some of the soil. You can see particularly on this tray how it's dropped down a fair bit. Just fill up those pockets. All right. Then we're going to use our next part of the kit, the multi-tool peg thing. And each of these pegs correspond with one of the cells. So I'm just going to lightly sort of line that up and press down with the aim of just lightly compacting the soil that's in these holes. And the reason why we want to compact the soil that's in there, maybe even a little bit more than on a normal seed starting kit, is because we need the soil making contact with the capillary mat at the end. So I can get a little bit more in here. Now, seed starting mix doesn't have a huge amount of nutrients in it, but the idea with it, as opposed to using like potting mix, is that this is really light and fluffy and gives the roots of the newly developing seeds a really perfect environment to start growing. Flatten that out. I'll just punch down with the pegs again. And we're ready to go. I'm just gonna wash my hands. I have made all of my plant tags and laid them all out where I want them to be. And the reason I've done this first as opposed to as I'm kind of going with the planting of the seeds is because I've got heaps of different things that I only want 1 or 2 or 3 of, and I want to make sure I'm kind of getting the right layout. So I've got my 3 watermelons here and 2 celeriac. I'm going to do 2 white kohlrabis, 3 purples. I've got loofah, a loofah vine, which I think will be fun. So I'm going to pop that in there. Florida Market, Black Beauty, long purple, and a, what's that? A Listada eggplant. Californian Wonder, Capsicum, 3 of them, 3 pimentos, 2 purple beauty capsicums, Hungarian Sweet capsicum, Cayenne pepper, Big Jim chili, and Habanero chili, 2 of. So what I'm going to do now that I've got each of these laid out is I'm going to use my plant tag to make the little hole for the seed. So I'm just going to come along and make a little hole for the seed. And the idea with making your little hole for your seed is not to go too deep. The planting packet will tell you how deep to go, and usually it's, you know, a couple of millimeters, but typically they say that it should be about, what is it, double the size of the seed or something like that. I usually just make about the same size hole for everything, to be brutally honest with you. A couple of mil deep, make the hole, stick the seed in, plant it out. I'm just going to finish this and then we'll get our seeds. Big Jim is my first one, and I did plant some of these last year, so the packet's open, I'm prepared. These have nice sort of big-ish seeds, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 seeds in each of the holes, or each of the cells, which means I'm putting 4 seeds in total into only 2 cells. I only want 2 plants, but the reason I'm doing that is if one of them just doesn't germinate, then the other one's there. If it does, no problems, because, you know, then you just chop one off. Easy. Every now and then I get seeds or seed packets which only have a couple of seeds in them, usually when the variety is a new one. Then I'll only put 1 seed in and just hope for best germination. You don't have to do the 2 seeds. I just kind of go, well, seeds are so cheap, doesn't really matter. But it is the thing that I'm most excited about this year is trying all of the different new vegetables. It is very exciting to me. And part of the reason why I'm growing so many different kind of varieties of the same vegetable is because I want to learn which one I like the best. I've got such a big veggie garden. I want things that I love in there, and I want to experiment and just have fun. So last week when I started my tomatoes, I followed the instructions pretty closely. The one thing that the instructions didn't tell me is when to plant the seeds in the process. So I've worked that out through trial and error. It sounds like it should be simple, right? But it's not. And it also told me how to set up the capillary mat to start the self-wicking action. Watching my tomatoes though for the last couple of days, I'm not sure I 100% agree with what they've done. And so I'm going to try something a little bit different with the seeds today, just to see if it makes any kind of difference. So what the instructions say to do is get your black bottom watering tray. The pegs sit inside of the tray with the capillary mat on top of it and bent out over the bottom and into the tray, and the capillary mat then sucks the water up from inside the tray up into the mat, comes across the top, and our seed cells that we've just started sit on top and then wick water up. Now all of that is perfectly fine. That's exactly what I even think it should do. What the instructions said though was to set this up like this and then pour water on top of the capillary mat before settling the tray onto it. And what I've noticed, or what I think I'm noticing with my tomatoes, is that the mat isn't wicking the water how I expect it to. So what I am going to do first is I've got a bowl of water, and instead of just wetting this on top with a little bit of water, I am just going to dunk the whole thing in here and get it absolutely saturated. I think that maybe what happened was that just the little bit of water I'd poured on top of the mat sitting on top of the pegs in the tray may not have been enough water to really saturate this mat, considering that, you know, it's never had water on it. And if you think when you get a rag or a tea towel or something, if you put a little bit of water on it, quite often that water just sheds. It doesn't soak up. It needs a fair bit. So I'm just going to let this soak up for a minute while I fill up some water into the tray. So what I'm going to do is get it about, I don't know, half to 3/4 of the way full, just with my watering can. Nice and simple. A bit of styrofoam in there. All right. Now I'm hoping that this makes a difference. If it doesn't make a difference, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? So I've got that nice and sopping wet. I'm going to pop the bottom half, so it does have a flap that shows you where the bottom is. So I'm going to pop that down into the water because that's where it has to be, and right off to the side. And then the pegs go downwards to make the platform. And it has a cutout, and that's for us to pour more water in later. So that can sit inside of here. And the capillary mat, I've just got to find the right spot for it to come over the whole way. And here we go. The capillary mat has covered the whole of the bottom. It is nice and wet. I can give it some more water. And looking at this, it's kind of soaking in a little bit, and that's what I want to see. Still holding on to a little bit on the outside, but here it's soaking a little bit more. I really just want this mat to soak up the water. Anyway, at some point, you've got to live and learn, but I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to grab now my cells, and the idea is that I pop it perfectly onto the tray so that every cell, each of the bottoms of the cell is open with soil hitting the capillary mat. Each of them has to hit the capillary mat, which it will because I've tapped it down. And last but not least, we're just going to water in like we would normally water in. Usually when I'm starting seeds, I water with a lot gentler watering method, just so that it doesn't disrupt the seeds as much, but I think that this will be okay. Now the reason why we still have to water on top, even though the capillary mat is going to water for us, is to settle the seeds and also to start the wicking action. So the mat is wet. Once the soil is wet, the idea is that the soil and the mat keep kind of talking to each other and the water keeps flowing. The plants will take up the amount of water that they need and only what they need. Here's hoping. Anyway, that's done. It was a pretty easy, pretty simple process. I am excited to see how the self-watering kit goes, because if it works, I am going to have beautiful, healthy plants that I haven't had to stress about while I've been away. I've got about 2 weeks to check on them, watch how they go, see that the capillary is working properly, and that's enough time for all of these seeds to germinate and to get started. They will grow under lights until I'm ready to pot them up, in which time I will take you along for that ride. Anyway, I'll show you as I start to germinate. I'm really excited about these. I'm happy that I've got these underway. My next lot of seeds starting will be, I'm home for about 5 days in between 2 different trips, and I'll start some seeds then in September, and then it will be more planting outside. Yay! Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.